of what will happen if they hit US. Kim Jong-un is becoming more defiant in his push for war with the United States. The tensions have been increasing over the last several months. However, they have now reached a tipping point. It all began when this cocky dictator began to test missiles that have the ability to reach portions of the United States. It was then discovered that these missiles are fitted with miniature nuclear warheads that have the potential to wipe out portions of Hawaii and Alaska. Now, those tensions have only intensified when earlier this week the dictator issued a threat to launch an attack on the U.S. Pacific territory of Guam, which currently has 6,000 American soldiers stationed on it. Of course, President Trump is not standing down from these threats by the unhinged dictator and has upped our military force in Guam. Now, China has stepped in and has issued a clear message to North Korea if they strike the United States that may make their belligerent ally stand down. China has announced late Thursday night that they would not come to North Korea's aid if they attacked the United States. However, China did say that they would come to the aid of North Korea if President Trump strikes first and tries to overthrow Kim Jong-un's regime, Chinese state media said Friday. China has repeatedly warned North Korea and the United States not to do anything to raise tensions, but it is obvious that Kim Jong-un has not heeded that advice. Over the last several months, the dictator has continued testing missiles off the North Korean coast and issuing threats of war to the United States. This stern warning came by a state-owned newspaper, the Global Times, and even though the newspaper is not an official arm of the government, it likely is accurately reflecting China's position. Here is more from Huffington Post. The current situation on the Korean peninsula is complicated and sensitive, Foreign Ministry spokesman Zhang Xuang said in a statement. China hopes that all relevant parties will be cautious in their words and actions, and do things that help to alleviate tensions and enhance mutual trust, rather than walk on the old pathway of taking turns in shows of strength, and upgrading the tensions. In an editorial, the Global Times said China should make it clear to both sides, when their actions jeopardize China's interests, China will respond with a firm hand. China should also make clear that if North Korea launches missiles that threaten U.S. soil first and the U.S. retaliates, China will stay neutral, it added. If the U.S. and South Korea carry out strikes and try to overthrow the North Korean regime and change the political pattern of the Korean peninsula, China will prevent them from doing so. The warning comes at the end of a week of threats and counter-threats between Washington and Pyongyang, and as the United States weighs its options to deal with the threat of North Korea's nuclear and missile program. The brinkmanship weighed on world financial markets for a fourth consecutive day. Main indexes were down in Frankfurt and Paris, and London's FTSE 100 touched its lowest level since May. Asian markets also slumped, including South Korea's Kospi, dropping 1.8%. The Dow Jones Industrial Average was largely flat after the opening bell. On Tuesday, President Trump threatened to respond to further threats from North Korea by unleashing fire and fury like the world has never seen. Pyongyang, in turn, threatened to strike the U.S. territory of Guam in the western Pacific with ballistic missiles. The paper's comments reflect the 1961 Sino-North Korean Treaty of Friendship, Cooperation, and Mutual Assistance, which obliges China to intervene if North Korea is subject to unprovoked aggression, but not necessarily if Pyongyang starts a war. The key point is in the first half of the sentence, China opposes North Korea testing missiles in the waters around Guam, said Cheng Zhao, a North Korea expert at Renmin University of China in Beijing. With the situation on the Korea Peninsula sliding dangerously toward the point of no return, Chinese media are starting to declare their positions on any potential war, he said. Secondly, in a half-official way, China is starting to review and clarify the 1961 treaty. The situation in North Korea is only increasing and hopefully, it can be resolved without any incident. However, witnessing the way that North Korea has been acting, it is quite possible that won't be the way this is played out. The only thing that is comforting about this entire situation is knowing that we have a strong leader in the White House and Defense Secretary Mattis advising President Trump. For too long, North Korea has gotten away with these bullying tactics, But those days are far behind us. Hopefully, nothing will come of this now that China has issued this clear message and they will stand down. Though if they continue with these threats, you can be sure that the United States will blow them right off the map.